हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितंश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुस्तुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जयतां सुरतौरुपंगो मम मंद मतेर्गति मत्सर्वस्व पदां भुजौ राधा मदन मोहनौ दिव्याद् वृंदारण्य कल्पद्रुमदौ श्रीमदत्नागार सिंहासनस्थौ श्रीमद् राधा शील गोविंद देवौ प्रेष्ठालिभि सेव्यमानौ स्मरामि श्रीमन् रासरसारंभी वंशी वटतटस्थितः कर्षन् वेणुस्वनैर्गोपी गोपीनाथस्त्रियस्तु नः। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नम ओं विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नित्य नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशधारिणे श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा। Thank you so much, dear devotees, for joining Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his attempt to bring Jagannath back to the land of Sri Vrindavan Dham. As we had explained in our previous classes also as to how this episode, this prasang of Jagannath Puri is one of the celebrated pastimes in the pages of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, along with the four others in the form of Rup Siksha, Sanatan Siksha, Raya Ramananda Samvad, six Ashtakar prayers, and this makes it the fifth, the episode of the Jagannath Rath Yatra. It's very inspiring and very hope giving to see that the book is written by someone who was actually not there in the pastimes of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, we never find him in the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We never say, oh, Kaviraj Goswami went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and they had this conversation. But it's still hope giving to see that someone who's not physically present ends up writing the magnum opus, the pastimes of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, which only shows that someone may not be physically present in the Lord's pastimes. Or if the Lord would have performed his pastimes 500 years back in Navadvip, in Nadia, or 5,000 years back in the land of Shri Vrindavan Dham, but still, these pastimes can appear in the core of one's heart if someone is as sincere as Kaviraj Goswami. The same pastimes can be seen, just like you say TV. If someone misses a live telecast, like, you for example, if it's some sports, cricket, for example, if there is some live match that we have missed, what happens? There is highlights. Even if someone has missed, you can go and see highlights. You can again watch the whole match. So you don't lose anything. Similarly, these pastimes, Supreme Lord would have performed 5,000 years back or 500 years back. But if the person is sincere, these pastimes can again be telecasted in the TV like heart. It can again be shown in the heart. And it's not just highlights. Like in TV, you'll see highlights, but it's not live. But for the devotee, the Lord can even perform the pastime one more time. If suppose a devotee likes Damodar Lila very much, then the Lord is very kind that just for that devotee, he will orchestrate such that he will again perform the Damodar Lila where the devotee is present. So the devotee's heart is satisfied. So these pastimes, if there is some pastime of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, or some pastime of Krishna that we really love, and we wish how I wish I was there, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will perform it one more time, or Krishna will perform it one more time. These pastimes are dynamic; they are not static. The pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are not just limited to pages of Chaitanya Charitamrita. ऐसा नहीं है कि केवल चैतन्य चरितमृत में है। अब हो गया, एक बार महाप्रभु कर लिए लीला, अब फिर से नहीं करेंगे ना। If the devotee is sincere and is hankering for it and has that greed and has that thirst, he will again perform. And Kaviraj Goswami is the best example. He was not physically present, but through Raghunath Das Goswami, he got empowered to write a complete scripture glorifying Chaitanya Charitamrita, glorifying Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And what is more inspiring is when Kaviraj Goswami wrote the scripture, he was pretty old. He was not someone who was young like the authors of this world. Most authors of this world, when they write a book, they're pretty young or middle aged. But no one starts writing a book when they're 85 or 80. Doesn't happen. Kaviraj Goswami was very old. Ami vruddha jaratura likhite kanapaya kara mane kichu smarana na hoy na dekhiya nayane na shuniya shravane तबु लेखे ए बड़ विस्मय. Kaviraj Goswami himself is saying, Ami Vruddha Jaratura. I have become Vruddha. I have become very old. Likhite Karnapaya Kara. And when I am writing, my Kara, my hand, Likhite Karnapaya Kara, my hand starts trembling. Imagine if you have to write with your right hand and your hand is trembling, how will you even write? Not possible. You will write maybe one word and two words, but not a sentence. Even if you write a sentence, not couple of sentences. Even if you manage to write couple of sentences, not one page. And even if you write one page, there's no question of writing one chapter and then one book and then multiple books. Not possible. Unless the Lord really wants you to write and He empowers, only then it's possible. If the Lord wants, even a lame person can climb the mountain. Even a person who cannot speak ends up glorifying the Lord. Everything is possible if Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants. So here Kaviraj Goswami says, Ami Vruddha Jaratura Likhite Karnapaya Kara. My hand is trembling. I am old. Mane kichu smarana na hoy. मुझे कुछ स्मरण होता ही नहीं है. This is our state also. We hear class and then this we hardly remember anything. What we discussed today's session number 39. How many of us would remember what we discussed in the first session? Very few. Very few, probably. Unless we have had anything written down in the form of notes, then we can refer and we may remember. But otherwise, off the head, it's very difficult. So, Kali Yuga memory is such prayana alpa ayusha sabhya kalo asmin yuge jana manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya upadrita. The first canto of Bhagavatam explains of the various faults the living entity has. One of them is memory is not very strong. In the olden times, they had a very strong memory. They would hear something and they were able to reproduce that. Even Shukadev Goswami, for that matter, he heard it just once from Srila Vyasadeva. Then he was able to reproduce. In fact, one speaker was saying recently, I was hearing, he was saying, actually, Shukadev Goswami heard it twice from Vyasadeva. The first time he heard it, because we know the pastime of Shukadev Goswami, how he was acting as an impersonalist. He went to the forest and he said, well, Bhagwan nahi hai. The Lord doesn't have form, like the way people in India normally say, and world over also they say, Lord doesn't have form, uh, he he doesn't have a place, he doesn't have anything. Bhagwan Nirakar hai, etc. So Shukadev Goswami was playing the role of an impersonalist, and there we find the two verses of Venugit. One is Venugit, that is Varaha Pidam Natavarabahu, glorifying the external beauty of Krishna, and second, glorifying Krishna as to how he delivered someone who came to kill him, that is Putana. When these two verses entered the ear of Srila Shukadev Goswami Pad, his heart got captivated and he came back to his father Vyasadeva to hear. about this. And he ended up hearing the whole thing. So the first time was to understand what is going on and who the personality is. And second time was out of thirst. एक बार सुन लिए, अब फिर से सुनना है. If you're given a piece of pizza, slice of pizza, and you've never had a pizza, first time you're experimenting. You're experimenting the first slice of pizza. And once you like it, now you know what it tastes, and now the second slice is to relish it. So similar to Shukadev Goswami. The first time was he had not heard what it is, and he ended up hearing through the lips of his father, Srila Vyasadeva. And the second time was to heighten the effect. So he ended up hearing twice. But by hearing, they could remember. So memory was still so strong. Viraj Goswami says 500 years back when he compiled the scripture, Ami Vruddha Jaratura Likhite Kanapaya Karamane Kichu Smarana Na Hoy. Kali Yuga's influence has begun so much that he is saying, I'm not able to remember anything, which is our state also. The human life, if we see, there are so many challenges. Memory is less, lifespan is less. People are not very fortunate. Not everyone gets sadhu sangha. We have to work for it. So there are many shortcomings of this human birth. But the only good thing, apart from the various shortcomings, the only good thing is it gives the ability to a human being to exit this cycle of repeated birth and death. That is the only good thing a human being has. The animals don't have that. For the animals, again, memory is short-lived, lifespan is less. The chances of being slaughtered in a slaughterhouse are way higher than probably a human being. So nothing is in favor of the animals. Likewise, for the human being, nothing is favorable. But the only good thing that we have over the animals and other species is in this human form of life, if sincerely practiced, one can get the Supreme Lord. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is saying, Na dekhiya nayane, I can't see. No shuniya shravane, I can't even hear. Why? Because he's about 80 plus. Hmm. It's like our grandfather writing Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's not possible. It's difficult to even fathom someone of that age to start writing. And it's not just writing, it's not just like a Harry Potter novel that chalo likh liye. This is something that's going to be used for the next so many thousands of years until the end of Kali Yuga. It's this Chaitanya Charitamrita that's going to be used, and that is written by an 80 plus year old associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Prabhu likhi ei bada vismay. Kaviraj Goswami says, still, in spite of all these shortcomings, still I am writing Chaitanya Charitamrita. Ei bada vismay. Oh, this is very astonishing. This is unbelievable. This is unthinkable. So, Krishna Bhakti is very hope giving. Very, very hope giving. Whether we are young or whether we are old, if someone wants to perform, they will perform. There is no excuse. If there is determination, that person will make sure he practices the path of Krishna consciousness. So age has nothing to do, circumstance has nothing to do. It's just the sincerity of the heart. So yesterday we were talking about how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu being completely determined and sincere and motivated to make sure that Rath of Jagannath moves ahead. With his head, he was pushing it ahead, accompanied by the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who were there ahead and who were trying to pull the ropes. And we explained as to how even the wrestlers tried, but it didn't work out. And one sannyasi who was just there in his kopin, he was able to overpower even the wrestlers. So that's where we stopped. Let us continue, dear devotees. Then Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra were taken from the ruts by their servants, and they sat on their respective thrones. Then followed the bathing of Jagannath and food offering. That's the Snan Yatra. Lord Chaitanya and his devotees performed Sankirtan in the courtyard. Sang Kirtan. Kirtan means Kirti, means to glorify the Lord. Glorification is Kirti. Kirti से आता है कीर्तन. Sankirtan or Sang Kirtan. when many devotees come together and congregationally glorify the Lord. In a group, when many devotees come together in a group and then they try to glorify the Lord, this is Sankirtan. And the highest form of Sankirtan is Nam Sankirtan. Coming together and glorification can be through Katha also. Here also there are so many devotees present and there is glorification of the Lord. But the dharma for this age, the highest dharma for this age is Nam Sankirtan. Now, of the different varieties of Kirtan, it is Nam Kirtan, Nam Sankirtan, which is the Yuga Dharma. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there, even with Rai Ramananda and Swarup Damodar Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Harshe Prabhu kahe na shuno Swarup Ramaray. Mahaprabhu is very harsha, he is very happy. Harshe Prabhu kahe na shuno Swarup Ramaray. Swarup and Ramray, please hear this. Mahaprabhu is very happy. And in his happiness, what is coming out from his mouth? Nama Sankirtana Kalau Parama Upay. That in Kali, Nam Sankirtan is the ultimate उपाय इट्स द अल्टीमेट सॉल्यूशन इससे बढ़कर और कुछ नहीं है and there will be nothing more glorious than Harinam Sankirtan in this age of Kali. All activities, all limbs of Krishna consciousness are subordinate to this one highest principle of the Yuga Dharma, that is Nam Sankirtan. Srila Prabhupada had written one letter where Prabhupada had said, the aim and essence of all the activities that we do is to generate taste towards chanting of the holy name. Then Prabhupada wrote, because you all don't have taste for the holy name, I am engaging you all in different activities like constructing temples, cleaning of the temple, and so many other activities. So that by doing these activities, the mind can be engaged in Krishna only to sit down at one place and chant the holy name of the Lord continuously. That is our ultimate goal to develop taste towards the holy name. But because at this point there is no taste, Prabhupada instituted so many other services so that through these services the mind eventually can get attracted towards Krishna. Like someone initially may not be attracted to holy name, but may be attracted to cooking. So Prabhupada said, why don't you cook for Krishna? Someone may be attracted to making garlands and may be very good in decoration. Prabhupada said, why don't you use it for Krishna? Make garlands for Krishna. Decorate the altar for Krishna. Someone may be good at stitching. Prabhupada said, why did you stitch clothes for Krishna? In our Juhu temple, Mumbai, when Prabhupada opened the temple in the 1970s after a big struggle, Giriraj Swami Maharaj has written a very beautiful book, The Juhu Story. Very, very sweet and very interesting. It's almost like a movie. There is thriller, suspense, villain, this, that, Prabhupada struggle, and eventually, my goodness, somehow Prabhupada makes sure the temple comes up. Because Prabhupada had promised Radharas Bihari that come what may, I will build you a temple here. And this is why the theme of the book is I will build you a temple. Because Prabhupada had told Radha Rasbihari, I will build you a temple. So it's a must read book. If we have the book and we have not read, please read it. And uh, if you don't have the book, please make sure if you can purchase one copy. I am not promoting anything. I don't have any monetary gains out of it, but it's just a beautiful read by His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj. Mm. So we find as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is here talking about Nam Sankirtan, and there is public group glorification of the Supreme Lord. Prabhupada taught us the same principle that whatever our interest is, we have to dovetail that to the Supreme Lord. And this is what Prabhupada did. When the Juhu temple came up, near the Juhu temple, there was one uh, tailor. Close to the Juhu temple, there was one tailor. And he was a Muslim. And being a Muslim, even though he was close to temple, he would do different things. It was his profession, so people would come and they would give their clothes, and he would stitch and he would do altering and tailoring and this and that, and he would give. And somehow the eyes of the devotees fell on this person. And they had given their clothes and he had done it. And somehow they struck a conversation. And eventually Prabhupada asked him that, why don't you stitch clothes for Radha Bihari? So he said, how about my monetary gain? Prabhupada said, don't worry. You just do it for Radha Bihari. Remaining your stay, your prasadam, all those things we will take care. Your monetary thing, we will take care. You just, rather than doing it outside on the street, why don't you do it for our Radha Bihari? He said, okay, well, at the end of the day, he's just a tailor. So if he's going to get food, if he's going to get a place to stay, he's going to get some money. He said, okay, let me do it. And this is in the 70s, 1970s, mid 1970s. His name was Abdul. And he started somehow by Prabhupada's inspiration and preaching. He came to the temple, started living in the temple initially. And then Prabhupada gave him service. And for the next 35 to 40 years, all the dresses of Radha Raspberry were stitched by a Muslim tailor. If you go to Juhu Radha Raspberry temple, all the dresses that you have seen for the last so many 40 years, from the 1970s till mid 2000s, he just retired some years back because now he's old. His family is all children have all got married and he's, he's now old and he's finding it difficult. But for the last 40 years, all the dresses of Radha Raspberry were stitched by a Muslim tailor. How wonderful. It only shows, dear devotees, that these things are external. Muslim, Christian, Hindu, this is external. At the end of the day, a human being is meant to love God. And when he was interviewed, there's a very beautiful article. If you just look up online in Google, you'll find Muslim tailor of Radha Raspberry, and you'll get an article, and he speaks about himself and how he came, etc. So you can read about his life. And there, when he was asked, he says, actually, I don't find any difference between Islam and um Sanatan Dharma or ISKCON, because both places, the real meaning, if you see, is to love God and is to accept everyone as a servant of God. Even in Islam, it's the same. Even here in ISKCON, that's the same thing that's preached. He says, according to me, there is no difference. And uh, realistically, there is no difference. Every um, place of worship, the mosque, the church, the Gurudwara or the temple or any of these places, at the end of the day, however you cut it, at the end of the day, it's meant to ignite our lost relationship with Supreme Lord. It's meant, yes, I think someone has posted. Thank you. So you all can read through that link. At the end of the day, it's meant to ignite our lost relationship with Krishna. It's meant to love Krishna. It's meant to love Krishna. It's meant to serve Krishna. And at the same time, it's meant to love the devotees and it's meant to serve the devotees. How can we not love and serve devotees when we love Krishna and vice versa? So Nama Sankirtana Kalo Paramopaya. So eventually everything boils down to this one principle of Nam Sankirtan. And because there is no taste, Prabhupada did so many other corollary activities so that through that one day eventually we can get taste. And by doing so many other activities like constructing temples, distributing books, etc., we also become the recipients of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, by which we will eventually get taste to this chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Jayati Jayati Nama Ananda Rupa Murare. Viramita Nija Dharma Dhyana Pujyati Yatnam. Kathamapi Sakradatta Mukti Nam Paraninamyat Paramamritamekam Jivanam Bhushanam Me. Srila Sanatan Goswami in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, he explains the glories of Harinam, glories of holy name. He says, Jayati Jayati Nama Ananda Rupam Murare. That all glories to your holy name, my dear Lord. Why? Ananda Rupam. It is the form of happiness. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Ananda Leelamaya Vigrahaya. Mahaprabhu is the embodiment of happiness, and his name is equally the embodiment of happiness. Jayati Jayati Nama Ananda Rupa Murare. Viramita Nija Dharma Dhyana Pujyadi Yatnam. This chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra puts a stop, it puts an end to all other activities. If someone is chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, there is no need for doing any other previous activities that we were doing. If someone is chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, eating prasadam, serving the Vaishnavas, worshipping the Lord, then there is nothing much, nothing extra we have to do. This is everything. It puts a stop. Viramita Nija Dharma, Dhyana Puja Dhyatma. A process like dhyan and so many other things, we can keep it to the side because if someone is chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra and worshipping the Lord and worshipping the Vaishnavas, it is the highest, Sanatan Goswami says. Kathamapi Sakrudattam Muktinam Praninamyat Paramam Vritamekam Jivanam Bhushanam. This chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra as such, liberation it will naturally give. It's a byproduct we will naturally get, but it ignites prem in the heart of the chanter. That Krishna prem that we are all looking out for. It is ignited through the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Sanatan Goswami concludes by saying, Paramamritam ekam. There is only one Amrit, there is nectar, but Paramam, it's the highest form of sweetest nectar. It's almost like sweet rice, gulab jamun. You see, in our ISKCON temples, in the morning they have the bal bhog, and in that they have sweet rice. And it is so tasty. If you have not tried it in an ISKCON temple, the morning bal bhog, you must. It is super sweet. So the holy name is compared like that. Paramamritam ekam, जीवनम भूषणम में. जीवन का एकमात्र लक्ष्य एकमात्र यदि भूषण देखे तो सोना नहीं है. It is not jewelry. That is not the highest form of bhushanam. That is not the highest form of decoration. The highest form of ornamentation to the body is this Hare Krishna Mahamantra. परमामृतम एकम जीवनम भूषणम है. जीवन का एकमात्र लक्ष्य और एकमात्र यदि भूषण देखे तो वो है भगवान का नाम. यदि कोई भगवान नाम जपता हो, so he has achieved everything. So Mahaprabhu here is performing loud Nam Sankirtan, and it's not just in Jagannath Puri. We see this even in Srivas Angan in Navadvip. There also for so many hours he was performing Nam Sankirtan. So this is our Gaudiya Sampradaya, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spent so many hours on the streets chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and broadcasting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra because human life is meant for this. It is meant for embracing the Lord through the sound vibration. We also embrace the Lord through the deity form, but also primarily in Kali Yuga, we embrace the Lord through the sound vibration, which is Nam Sankirtan and Lila Katha, because that is also sound vibration, pastimes of the Supreme Lord. It's through the pastimes of the Supreme Lord that our heart can get attached to the Supreme Lord. Oftentimes, people have this dilemma and have this confusion that, well, I have not seen Krishna, so can I develop love towards the Supreme Lord? मैं भगवान को देखा नहीं हूँ, तो प्रीति कैसे जाग उठेगी? If in this world, if I've seen someone, then I know, oh, this is how the person looks, this is how he speaks, and then there can be some love. But I have not seen Krishna, I've only seen in deity form, in some photo form. How can there be love? The best example is Rukmini. Rukmini never saw Krishna. It is only that she had heard about Krishna through so many uh, devotees about the pastimes that he did in Vrindavan and Mathura. It is only pure Shravanam. She had never seen Krishna. But just by hearing, Shrutva Gunan Bhuvana Sundara Shinvatamte Nirvishya Karana Vivarai Harato Katapa Rupam Drisham Rishimatam Akhilartha Labam Tvaya Chuta Vishati Chittama Patrapam me Tatva Mukunda Mahati Kula Shila Rupa. Very beautifully, the Canto 10, chapter 52, text 37 to about 43 are the prayers of Rukmini. 7 8 verses. There she says, Shrutva Gunan Bhuvana Sund Shunvatamte, my dear Lord, I have now heard about you. But heard what? Shrutva Gunan Bhuvana Sundar, my dear Lord, your Bhuvana Sundar. आप तीनों जगत में यदि सबसे सौंदर्य पूर्वक कोई व्यक्ति है तो प्रभु आप ही है. And not just external beauty, even internally, you're very, very beautiful. Shrutva gunan bhavana sundara shrunvatamte. Shrunvatamte. She had heard about Krishna. She had heard about Krishna's beauty. How he lifted Giriraj Govardhan when he was just 7 years old for 7 days. How he danced on the hoods of Kaliya. How he killed Putana when he was just 6 days. How Trinavarta took him up in the air. Huh? It was almost like an aeroplane. Krishna's aeroplane ride. When Krishna was small, he would see the birds and he would think, oh, even I want to fly like that. But it was very difficult because Krishna has no wings. How will he fly? Of course, Krishna can do anything, but in the pastimes of Vrindavan, Krishna was looking at the birds and he wanted to fly, but he cannot. And Trinavarta came there to help Krishna fulfill that desire. Krishna wanted to go up and he wanted to see everything. So Trinavarta said, my dear Lord, this service I will do. You give this service to me. So externally he may be a demon, but he is helping Krishna because छोटे बच्चे हैं and small children are fascinated by everything. They may see a bird and they may also do like this, but they cannot fly. But Trinavarta helps and help. He takes Krishna up. It is explained, our Acharya say, when Krishna was up in the air, he was like a blue necklace on the neck of Trinavarta. Krishna is bluish in color, and Krishna was like on his back and he was holding on to Trinavarta. So he was like a blue necklace. Neelamani, Ujjwala Neelamani. He was like a blazing blue sapphire necklace on the neck of Trinavarta. So we find in the land of Vrindavan, Krishna performs these different pastimes. Mhm. And at the same time, here Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is performing different pastimes. And so both we understand that the names of the Supreme Lord are the most glorious. Nam Sankirtan. Mahaprabhu would spend so many hours performing Nam Sankirtan. There is this there is this Puranic story that we may have heard, but I would still want to share and repeat. There is this very beautiful story that I'd come across. One time there was a king. This is not Shastric, but this is a story that has some lessons. There was a king, and this king was such that in his kingdom one sadhu was always coming, and this sadhu would come and preach, and the king was not interested. See, oftentimes when we go out on the streets, also we try to preach, and people are like, "Ah, nahi, pata hai, sab pata hai, Bhagavad Gita, sab pata hai." You try to distribute a book, and people are, "Sab pata hai." अरे आपको क्या नहीं पता फिर? You know everything. And you ask them what they know, they will just say, काम करते जाओ, फल की चिंता मत करो. कर्म करते जाओ, फल की चिंता मत करो. That is the only thing that they know. That also they don't know properly. That also they don't know the words. And that also the purport is wrong. Hmm? But apart from that, that is not the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. The ultimate teaching of the Bhagavad Gita is Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vaja. Man mana bhava mad bhakto. So those verses are omitted and people just take what they want. Karm karte jao, phal ki chinta mat karo. And what is the karm that Krishna is talking about is offering all that we have for Krishna. But here people say, कर्म करते जाओ हाँ, अच्छा क्रिकेटर बन जाओ, have lot of fame, etc. And फल की चिंता मत करो, and then you will get God. How will you get God by not performing bhakti? By just becoming a cricketer or just doing worldly occupational duties? How will you get Krishna? Till the time there is no hankering of the heart. So that is not the teaching of the Gita. Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam praja. We fully surrender. So oftentimes we find in India, also in America, uh, not everyone is interested. You distribute a book, try to distribute a book. That's it. So pata hai. I've seen many times when people try to distribute, our ISKCON devotees try to distribute books and the person is not interested. So the person in reciprocation he says, कुछ नौकरी वोकरी भी करते हो कि सिर्फ यही पूरा दिन हरे राम हरे कृष्णा. We have heard that people say, कुछ नौकरी वोकरी थोड़ा पढ़ाई वढ़ाई भी कर लेते हो, थोड़ा वो भी कर लो. ऐसा ना हो कि साधु संत बन जाए आप. थोड़ा पैसा वैसा भी कमाओ, घर वर हो, गाड़ी वाड़ी हो, ये तो चलते रहेगा. ये तो बुढ़ापे में भी कर लेंगे. अब तो मजा करने का समय है. I remember when I started working for the first time like 5 years back here in the US. So there was like uh, There was a day of Ekadashi, and on the day of Ekadashi, they had team lunch. And office means you can't kind of skip team lunch, and it was the day of Ekadashi, and devotees means we don't even go to restaurants. What to speak of Ekadashi, that too American restaurant. It's like beyond. But it was team lunch, and I had just started, so it doesn't look good if I back out. So I went to the restaurant, and they all ordered, and I didn't order anything. I was just sitting. So they said, "What happened?" So I said, "No, I don't have today." So I said, "Why?" And they were Indians. So I thought they will understand. I said, Ekadashi? What Ekadashi? He said, I said, today is Ekadashi, so I will not have. Maybe some other team lunch I will have with you. I had no intentions to have with them. It is just because I had joined. So I said, this Ekadashi, no, today's Ekadashi I cannot have. So he said, Ekadashi? You follow Ekadashi? So I said, yeah. And this was 5 years back. So I was probably 23. So I remember that person was about 43, 44. And he said, अरे अभी तो ऐश करने का समय है अभी तो मजा करने का समय है and he was like from Hyderabad. So he said now is the time to enjoy what this bhakti you can do when you're getting old. This is not the time when you do bhakti. So oftentimes people have this notion that Krishna consciousness means it is to be done when you're old, when there is no teeth, when the hair is not there, when you're completely bald, and there is nothing else to do, when there are no activities to do, people think, oh, that is the time to pick up the Shastra. But on the flip side, we see Prahlad Maharaj, he says, Kaumaram Acharit Pragyo Dharman Bhagavata Niha. Canto 7, chapter 6. He starts off that chapter by saying, actually, bhakti is to be performed in Kaumara, which means 0 to 5 or 0 to 6, the moment you begin. And that's what Prahlad Maharaj did. In fact, he was so advanced even before he appeared in this world. From the womb itself, he was doing Shravanam. So that's like on another level altogether. But if for most devotees that is not feasible and practical, but as much as possible and as soon as possible, one should embrace the path of bhakti. And if it is done in youth, it is better. Because in old age, not everyone is like Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, where no, na dekhiye nayane, na shuniye shravane. Not everyone can do that. At that age, eyes cannot see, ears cannot hear, and they compose Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's not possible. So, if it is, it will be greatly beneficial if, especially the youth, if we can take up the path of Krishna consciousness in a young age, so that in the old age there is something we can hold on to. In English, there is a saying, "Old habits die hard." So, if we have cultivated the habit of chanting Hare Krishna, cultivated the habit of memorizing verses, cultivated the habit of coming to temple, being around devotees, honoring prasadam, then it's very difficult to give up this habit. But it's very difficult to start a habit at the age of 70, 75, 80. And there's no guarantee that we will exist even till 75 and 80. So many people we saw during COVID, they were hale and hearty. And just one wave of COVID and they're gone. And no one knows where they are. Hmm. So human life is very fragile and very delicate. And Kamala Dala Jala, Jivana Talamala, Bhajau Haripada Nitire. Our acharyas explain. It's like a bubble. It can burst anytime. So we were talking about this king, not a Shastric story, but a king. And this he did not like sadhus coming to his kingdom, and he wanted to make sure that somehow there are no sadhus in his kingdom. So the sadhu understood this, and the sadhu said, "Well, I will not come to your kingdom, but there's one condition." The king said, "What is the condition?" The sadhu said, "Well, you have to find who's the most foolish person in your kingdom, and you have to make him the chief minister. उनको मंत्री बनाइए जो सबसे मूर्ख व्यक्ति है उनको पकड़कर मंत्री बनाइए यदि आप इस कार्य में सफल हो गए तो मैं यहाँ फिर से नहीं आऊंगा." So the king became very happy because he didn't want any sadhu in his kingdom. So he said, "Okay, I will. This is not very difficult." And the moment sadhu left, he called his other ministers and said, "Go outside and find the most foolish person, get him, and we'll make him the minister, chief minister." And when they went out, the moment they went out of the kingdom, they saw a person was sitting on the branch. And this person sitting on the branch, he was sitting on the branch and he was cutting the branch. And as he was sitting on the branch and cutting the branch, these other ministers who were there, they said, "Hey, do you understand what you're doing? You may fall down to the ground. You're sitting on the branch and cutting the branch. You may fall down to the ground." That person said, "Hey, don't disturb me. I am very busy. You do some other activity." He said, "Baba, you don't understand. You're sitting on the branch. You will fall down to the ground." And eventually, that's exactly what happened. He was sitting on the branch. He cut the branch. He fell down. When he fell down, he looked at these ministers and said, "Who are you? You could see the future. You knew astrology. You could see the future. You predicted my future. Oh, you have to be someone very great." These ministers said, "Oh, seems like we have found the most foolish person outside the kingdom only. We don't have to go anywhere else. सबसे मूर्ख व्यक्ति तो यही है. भला पेड़ के डाल में बैठकर कौन उसे काटता है? It's common sense. You don't have to be a pandit. It's known that if you're sitting there and cutting, you're going to fall down." They took him to the king and they told the king that this is what he did. And the king started laughing. And now the king made him the minister because it's not that king wanted to make him the minister, but the king thought it's better than not having the sadhu. And eventually, this minister would do everything topsy-turvy. When he has to eat with right hand, he would eat with left hand. When he's asked to do X, he would do Y. सब गलत गलत करते हैं क्यों क्योंकि मूर्ख है. But the king was tolerating because he felt it is easier to tolerate this person than tolerating the sadhu. This is Kali Yuga, classic Kali Yuga. And eventually there came a day when the king was on his deathbed. He was departing this world. And the king was looking around. And everyone was there. His wives were there. All the ministers were there. Everyone was near the bed of the king in his last days. And the king looked around and the king didn't find this minister, this foolish minister. So the king said, "Hey, where is that foolish minister? Can someone get?" And this foolish minister came. And this foolish minister, they had given him a gold baton. That gold baton was meant for those who are the most foolish. जो सबसे मूर्ख है, उनका ID card था. They would hold in their hand. So when the king called this foolish minister, he came and he looked at the king and said, "What happened?" The king said, "Oh, I am about to die. I am departing. La- Last few days or some last few weeks or whatever." And this minister was there. He said, "Oh, you're departing, but I see you're just there. You're not. Why are you crying?" He said, "Oh, because I am about to die." The foolish minister said, "Ah, I know why you're crying. You're crying because uh, you want to take your wife, but you're not able to take, right?" The king said, "No, I cannot take my wives, and that's not why I'm crying." This chief minister said, "Do you want to take your infantry? You have so many horses, ghoda, bida, sab hai aapke. So do you want to take them?" He said, "No, this is death. Death means you cannot take anything." He said, "Oh, you want to take maybe your weapons, astra shastra." He said, "No, I cannot even take my weapons." He said, "Ah, I understand. You are going to take this palace with you, right?" He said, "No, this is death. I can't even take my palace with me." He said, "Ah, now I understand. You are going to take all your ministers along with you." The king got irritated. He said, why don't you understand this is death? And you don't take anything along with you." The king was in his dying phase, and this minister was asking him so many questions. And the king got irritated and said, "Why don't you understand this is death? You don't take anything." This chief minister, he had a gold baton. He gave it to the king. He said, "My dear king, this is for you." The king said, "Do you understand what you're doing? This is meant for the most foolish person. And you are giving this to me? You have the audacity to give it to me? Do you understand what you're doing?" And this chief minister said, "My dear king, according to me, you are the most foolish person in the kingdom." The king said, "How dare you? You know what you're doing?" And the chief minister said, "My dear king, all your life you collected that infantry that you cannot take. All your life you collected those wives that you cannot take. All your life you build that palace that you cannot take. All your life, you were around so much jewelry and ornaments and so many other opulent luxury and wealth that you cannot take. All your life, you were around these ministers whom you cannot take. But that thing that you can take, that is spiritual wealth, Krishna consciousness, that you didn't take, that you didn't even cultivate. That thing that you can actually take, that you didn't put efforts. But that thing that you cannot take, उसके लिए पूरे जीवन आपने मेहनत किया. According to me, you are the most foolish person. The king was enlightened. King said, "Hey, wait a minute. Who are you? I thought you were foolish, but now you are speaking Bhagavad Gita. You are speaking Shastra. Who are you?" This foolish chief minister, he opened his disguise. He was living in disguise. He opened his disguise. And the king looked at him and said, "Who are you? I couldn't recognize." This chief minister said, "Do you remember that sadhu who would come to your kingdom?" He said, "Yeah, yeah, of course. I remember that sadhu." This chief minister said, "I am the disciple of that sadhu. He came and told me that he was trying to preach you, but you didn't take it up. तो जब घी सी उंगली से ना निकले, उंगली टेढ़ी करनी पड़ती है. On purpose I sat on the branch. On purpose I was cutting that branch only so that you consider me the most foolish, and I can come back to you and give the same message that he was giving. My dear king, the same message that my Gurudev was giving while you're alive, I am giving you while you are dying. There is nothing that you can take in this world except Krishna consciousness. Jata sehe dhruva mrityuhi. When someone is born, death is certain. But before the body falls down, one should cultivate the path of Krishna consciousness. And the highest form of Krishna consciousness in this age of Kali, the dharma for this age of Kali, is Sri Harinam Sankirtan. And this is what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is performing. It's just one line. Kaviraj Goswami says they were performing Nam Sankirtan. But how glorious is this Nam Sankirtan? And this is why Mahaprabhu tells Swarup Damodar and Rai Ramananda, Harshe Prabhu Kahena, Suno Swarupa Ramarai, Nama Sankirtana Kalau, Parama Upai. In this way, dear devotees, we just discussed four lines. In the last 1 hour, we just discussed four lines. But there's so much to speak about Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we have no limitation on इतना जल्दी खत्म करना है or something like that. So we can keep going on and on. So, but for now, we'll have to stop because it's already 9:20 here in America and it's about 9:50 back in India. But we will again continue on this journey of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu while he is there in Jagannath Puri, pulling the Rath and beseeching Jagannath to come back to the land of Sri Vrindavan Dham. Sachinandan Gauranga Mahaprabhu ki jai, Sri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Srila Prabhupada की जय श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन महायज्ञ की जय 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 श्री राधे श्याम श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि बोल